So I got Coach Barnes, who's more of an offensive guy, and Coach Parker, you're more of a defensive guy. I wonder, can I get you guys to battle back and forth about how you guys would scheme against each other a little bit? I know, I know.
Absolutely. Listen, absolutely not. I'm already 0-1 against Coach Parker in my career. I don't know if he remembers that, but
Yeah, River Rouge versus Harper Woods at
I
Harper
do.
Woods.
That was a
Yes,
good
sir.
football game. But yeah,
Yes, it was.
we took the L.
For real though, okay, so so I guess what I would say, I know you guys were both talking at the same time, but Coach Barnes talked about the screen passes, and Coach Parker, you talked about your defensive scheme, more geared toward the odd front. How would you, Coach Parker? How would you if River Rouge played Foley? What would be some inside things that you would do to scheme against Coach Barnes's very successful screen game?
Well, obviously, the first thing that you got to identify is what type of quarterback is this for Brian Barnes' team? Because the type of quarterback that he has is going to be a direct reflection of the different types of packages that he's going to open up on you. And so back when he was at Harper Woods, he had a dual threat quarterback that was going to pull the ball on the backside of zone read. But, Coach Barnes back then was very, very innovative. So he had, some RPO stuff going on. This was back in 2010, 2011, before RPO really had hit the market. He had a 3-by-1 and bubble going to the right, and they'll be running zone to the left, and they'll be reading the backside in. And so the quarterback would either key screen it and throw it out there if it's 3-on-2, or he would, if it's 3-on-3, then he's going to go through his zone process and now read the backside 5 technique and find out, is he going to sit and surf, or is he going to flip his hips and go and chase the dive? If he went and chased the dive, then now you got a pretty good athlete on the edge versus a linebacker trying to chase him from the inside out. And so when you're looking at a Brian Barnes team, you got to find out what type of cue is it. Is it that type of guys, or is it more of a guy that's trying to dink and dunk you to death and really get some rhythm going and all of his non-vertical concepts that Coach Barnes has, whether it's all hitches or whether it's his mesh concepts, whether it's his screen game. He's got some things inside of his toolbox that he does that I call them rhythm creators. He wants to create rhythm for his passer and put him in a position where he starts to feel confident about the calls. So for me, the way I want to scheme it up, I would come into the game with a hybrid style of a defense, meaning we would be able to play with what we have on the field, no matter whether he's in 10 personnel and plans to run or in 10 personnel and tries to pass. Because the last thing that really could affect you with a Brian Barnes team is the style of tempos that he has. And he's going to attack you with, he can speed it up when he wants, or he can slow it down when he wants. And so you have to be prepared for that, and knowing he's not necessarily going to exchange personnel to get into when he wants to run it. He'll possibly even use the guys that he has on the field by getting into bunch sets and things like that to really put you in a really he's going to create angles for his guys to get blocks done and create space for his players, whereas most coaches are going to want to send on an extra defensive end or an extra backer, things like that. You got to be able to play with what you got. Otherwise, you're going to get caught up with having 12 guys on the field. So for us, it's being able to create some type of pressure, man pressure, zone pressure that has a match principle on the back end of it, and really trying to overload where he wants to create his mesh with his quarterback. So I want to bring 2 off the edge of where the tailback is located, simply because he's possibly going to have some jet motion that he's going to bring, and jet motion is usually traditionally going to go towards the tailback, so he gains a blocker. So I want to bring 2 from where the tailback is located, maybe stunt my defensive line opposite, and then obviously play a match principle or man-to-man principle, or even empty out from the back end and go into cover zero and really try and get his quarterback on the grass a little bit when they're ready to do some drop back stuff. But I think the 3-on-3 and having some, doing 3-on-3 if he's 3-by-1, or if he's 2-by-2, being 2-by-2 and having two guys ready to check his two guys, we got to be cognizant of the slot fade. So we would play a off guy on the interior and a press guy on the edge, just to really try and start creating some issues, so that if they did decide to bubble and use the screen game, the corner will be able to come and support and fit from the outside in and force the bubble to have to cut it up. And here comes, the overhang that was checking him, the deep safety, so on and so forth. So those are some of the things that we would do. Try and get the quarterback on the grass and drop back, cover down his detached receivers with detached defensive backs and not linebackers, so he doesn't have a matchup scenario going on, and really make sure that we are controlling the tempo of the game and not allowing him to.
Ooh. All right, Coach. Coach Barnes.
Tom, I told you he's one of the best, and I don't think we're sharing this episode with the other members of the Catholic League or the teams on our schedule in 2022. But
you guys playing next week? I didn't know.
Right. No doubt. So the thing, from film study and knowing what Coach Parker does, I would need to make sure and figure out what's he doing with his odd front, right? And is he slanting his guys? Is he stunting their guys? Are they stemming? Are they moving around a little bit? Like Coach was saying, how much do they blitz? What type of coverage is he playing behind it? One of the things for us is we try to be a big matchup team, and we're trying to be a big numbers team. Okay. So through film study, try to find matchups that we think we can exploit. Okay. And how do we exploit that? Right. Try to get into a situation where our better players, whether it be receivers or running back, are matched up with one of their guys where we feel we win that matchup. And that's something I would do. And, Coach talked about all the, different types of fronts he can play with his odd front and his mint front and whatnot, stuff like that. One of the other things with that is, we try to manipulate it by, is there a defender that we think we would have trouble with blocking? We would make sure that we try to read that guy. And it might be, doesn't have to necessarily be a down defensive lineman or defensive end type guy. It might be a linebacker, right? So it might be a B gap linebacker type. And so we look and see if we can try to manipulate guys that way if we struggle with blocking them. And Coach mentioned we are a big tempo team. And that's one of the things that I like about tempo, and it can cause headaches for defensive guys, is that if we get lined up quickly, Coach has to rely on, or some of his players have to rely on, communicating really well and communicating really fast with what their calls and their checks are, because we might snap the ball right when the referee sets the ball. And we do that, hoping we can catch a team off guard that, maybe their defensive lineman is looking over to Coach trying to get his call, and he's not down and ready for the snap. And so tempo plays a huge part in it. And then another thing is that, I go back to the numbers thing, whether it be, like Coach mentioned, when we're 3-by-1 or sometimes empty, right? If we have numbers there, but also numbers in the box, when do we want to run the ball? I'm a big believer that anytime you have a 5-man box, you should run the ball. If it's 3rd and 9 and you're comfortable and you're confident in your offense, as an offensive thinker, we're pretty confident in what we do. If it's a 5-man box and it's 3rd and 9, we got to have, the stones to run the ball and be willing to go for it on 4th down. Depending on where we're at in the field. And so, again, a lot of it depends on, matchups. And then, the chess match comes into play, which is great about offensive versus defensive coaches, right? By film study, in theory, we should get an idea what downs does Coach like to blitz. He's bringing pressure on 3rd down, and all right, we have to have an answer for that, whether it be screen or sprint out, or quick game, so to speak. And so, Coach is one of the best for a reason, and that would be a fun matchup again. Depending on, we had similar personnel, it'd be a lot of fun.